Okay, here we go. Dr. Barnaby Rue, six-time world champion, a few times head coach of the world champion teams, a few times a national champion, a few world record holders in some events at boomerangs. And welcome to the World Cup of Boomerangs coming up in Bordeaux, 2022, France. There's a kids team, there's a veterans team, there's a bunch of very professional young adults competing for the cup itself, but many teams are competing for some other reason. And in your case, as a kids team, you're going to be competing to do the best you can. No worries, mate. Whatever you do is great. Commitment and desire and focus is all we really care about in what you do. Results are perfection come later. You should realize that you're building yourself for 5 years. This is a project where you might get on really top teams, but in 5 or 10 years. I wouldn't worry about that at all. It's a long, long sport. But you have to start somewhere, and this is where you are now. I'm going to give you some very heads-up ways to reduce frustration and anger. Let's put it this way. The wind is tricky. And she's coming for you. If it's 15 miles an hour, circling wind, or even like 5 miles an hour, and teasing wind, where it shifts every once in a while, like where's the wind? Is it on the left or on the right? What's it doing? The truth is, you're being fooled, and all of your hopes for perfection, don't think about it, because the wind has got its own program for you, and the wind is going to frustrate you. So that's okay. So the first piece of advice is to find 3 mile an hour, steady wind. Look up weather.com, whatever the weather report is. If you find 3 miles an hour and the wind is steady, that's when you want to throw pretty much for the first couple months. And the reason is because you would like the wind to be a given, meaning it's coming from a certain direction. And that's called 12 o'clock, because you actually throw at 2 o'clock. To the right of the wind, if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, you're throwing at 10 o'clock. So now we know. Now, one way to do that is you throw up the grass, and the grass comes to you and hits your belly. That's 12 o'clock. So now you turn a little bit to your right, if you're right-handed, and you throw it to the right. Now, guess what? If you're running off to the left to catch the boomerang all the time, that's because you need to throw a little more to the right. If you're running to the right all the time to catch your boomerang, because it's not coming right back at you. It's supposed to hit you, for Christ's sake. If you're running to the right all the time to catch it, it's because you need to throw a little more to the left. That's good news. So now we know. So now the next thing that you can do, just to be really clever, is you stand behind somebody who's throwing. And you watch the direction they throw. And if it comes right back to them, throw in that direction. What a surprise. If they run to the left, throw more to the right than they did. That saves you a lot of time. And during competition, you don't get practice throws. So you want to watch the guy in front of you. In fact, I sneak behind them so that I can watch exactly what they're aiming at. There's a tree over there. Look, they're aiming for that tree. So I aim for the same tree if they've got bullseyes. So a bullseye is basically a 2-meter circle. 8 points is a 4-meter circle. 6 points is a 10-meter circle, 8-meter circle, and it goes on. There's concentric circles, like in darts, only you're standing in a 2-meter circle to throw. This is one of the contest rules. Now, and you can get 10 points if your accuracy boomerang lands in that circle, and if your Australian round boomerang is caught in that circle, with your feet standing in the circle. That gives you 10 points. That's the bullseye. So that's good to know. You'll be reading the rules, and you want to practice with the rules, because when you go to France, there will be international rules, which are pretty simple, pretty basic, but you need to know them pretty well, and you'll be doing a lot of tournament practice to figure this out. Basically, the boomerangs are accuracy, which is where you throw from the bullseye and you let the boomerang land, and hopefully in the bullseye, and that's 10 points. 8 points if it lands between the bullseye and the 8-point circle, etc. So Then you have Australian round, which is the same concentric circles, the same points for catching in that same spot. But it includes, guess what? 4 points if you catch it. If it lands, then you get the points for the accuracy. But if you catch it, you get 4 extra points. And then for distance, you're probably going to be throwing a 30-meter boomerang, which gives you 2 points per throw, as long as the boomerang makes accuracy, at which point you get, there's 5 throws in Australian round, so that's going to give you 10 points. There's 5 throws in Australian round, so 5 catches gives you 20 points. You've already got 30 points, and then you hopefully got some accuracy, which will give you 10 points for bullseyes, etc. So that's Australian round. It's not a big deal, it's just adding the points. Now, let's go to the next thing. We have the wind. What you want to do here is you find a boomerang that you like a lot. It feels pretty good for you, you're throwing pretty successfully. Stay with it for 100 throws for 2 days. And you just go out, hopefully in pretty steady wind, and you throw just one boomerang. Now that becomes a given. You know the boomerang, you know who you are, you know what your throw is doing, so now you get to watch the wind more. If the wind comes up or down or moves left or right, you realize that's called the X factor. That's what happened. Okay, the given is I'm making the same throw every time. That's you're the machine. You have to throw, nice and straight and true. Now if you make a screwed up throw because your wrist moves funny, or you slip on the grass, or you throw with half power, whatever you do, you change your throw, well then that becomes an X factor again. So you're looking for givens, things you know just happened, which is a steady wind, and if you can do 10 throws the same every time, that becomes a given. So now, what happened? If the boomerang does funny things, and your throw is the same, that means that the wind has probably done funny things. So you look more carefully at what the wind is doing, because the wind might have tricked you, that kind of thing. If you make funny throws, and all your throws are different, then you don't know if the wind has made the difference or not. So basically what you're trying to do is to reduce the number of X factors and increase the number of givens. If everything is a given, you know which direction the wind is, your throw is the same every time, you've got a machine-like throw, batang, 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 etc., then you might actually get some world records, good-looking scores, etc. So basically, and in fast catch, what you would like to do is stand at the bullseye and throw the boomerang 5 times and catch it 5 times while somebody has a stopwatch, and they're basically timing how fast it is for you to throw 5 times with a fast catch, which is pretty damn exciting. Now, in the meanwhile, you have to be throwing from inside the circle, so you keep your eyes open. Where's the circle? It's a big painted circle, not hard to see. And then you have to run around and catch it and come back into the circle and throw it. And on your 5th throw, they stop the stopwatches as soon as you land in that circle. So this is going to be standard rules. Now, that's called fast catch. Now, in the meanwhile, what do you do with fast catch? It's a 20-meter boomerang. It's a specific boomerang. And this is your favorite boomerang, and you may want to get really used to that boomerang. I actually give my boomerangs names. So one of my fast catch boomerangs is named Artemis. Artemis is the woman who's the hunter. She's the goddess who hunts the deer. Her name is Artemis. And one of my fast catch boomerangs is, you don't care. Mickey Mouse. You can name it anything you want. The reason I name my boomerangs is because when I pick up Mickey Mouse and I know that's a particular boomerang, I already know how I'm going to throw it. If it's X number 22, I might have to think, it doesn't mean anything to me, it doesn't tell me. Because if you've thrown a boomerang 1,000 times, you want to know which one that is in your pack. So you want to be familiar with your boomerangs. One reason to not let other people throw you and break your boomerangs or lose your boomerangs or give them away or whatever is because you want to be familiar with your boomerang, really familiar. However, it turns out that in many cases there are interchangeable boomerangs, like maximum time in the air. what I'm just recommending for this team is that you might have one team might have one carbon fiber MTA tri-fly boomerang, let's say by Mano, which costs $100, I might add. But you can all throw the same boomerang the same way and get scores. So you can trade off the boomerang. Don't forget, in relay, in track and field, Olympics, they pass the same baton to everybody. Everybody's running with one baton, and then they hand it to somebody and they keep running. So it's only one baton and 5 people running, or 4. So the same thing happens with relay in American competition with boomerangs, is you can hand everybody the same boomerang and use that boomerang. Now in many cases, what you're doing, like as in relay, is you're running really fast. This is an international event. And you're running from 20 meters back from the bullseye. As we know, the bullseye is 2 meters circle. And you're running 20 meters away from the bullseye, downwind from it, and you run up the wind, and you run into the bullseye, and then you're allowed to throw with your feet inside the bullseye. If your feet are accidentally touching outside the bullseye, no score. So you have to be careful. You have to put your feet inside the bullseye. It's like not surprising. Now you've got a relay boomerang, which turns out to be 30 meters. There are actually spotters 30 meters away from the bullseye, raising flags going, you went past the 30 meters, you didn't go past the 30 meters. So that's really pretty exciting. You will be one of the spotters at the World Cup, raising your flag. It went over my head, it went in front of me. When it went in front of me, it means the boomerang was short. Oh my God, if the boomerang is short, it doesn't count. So suddenly you've got a 25-meter boomerang, and you're throwing in relay, and you think you're having fun, and they start waving the flags, meaning short. You got to throw the boomerang again, which is no fun because you want to get a timed score. Now you're looking pretty silly, and you're pretty embarrassed, and you're running pretty hard, and you're trying to throw it second time, and if you throw short again, or I think it's the rules are pretty bad. In any case. So in relay, you actually run twice. You'll run up to the bullseye from the 20-meter circle. You'll throw your boomerang, you'll catch the thing and touch the bullseye and run back and touch your partner. The guy who's way back there, 20 meters back, and you'll touch your partner, and then it's their turn. And there's 4 people on your team competing in the event. However, you do the same relay twice. So you basically go back to the end of the line, and then when it's your turn again, you throw a second time in relay. And that's a timed event. What's really pretty exciting about that is you'll probably be positioned 2 teams, 4 throwers each, at the 20-meter line, back from the center circle. 2 teams, your team and one of the top German teams in the world throwing next to you. These 30-year-old, totally professional, really fast, totally perfect throwing people, and you're going up against them at the World Cup, in your American uniform, and you're throwing against the top German team in the world. What am I doing here? Help, mother, save me. And the answer is relax. We all know that you are going to look really good in the future. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to be on the top team, humiliating us. It's your time, it's your turn to be humiliated. So when you go to the World Cup, you have to realize you're not going to be the great team. What you are is the new team who is starting out, learning the ropes, watching these guys really carefully, going to school, working with these really top throwers, and look at the privilege you have. This would be like you walking onto a football field to play football at age 14 or something, 16, with Pat Mahomes and Ben Roethlisberger and all the top quarterbacks and all the top people, and you're on the same field with them, playing with them. That never happens. In boomerangs, it does happen. In boomerangs, you actually get to throw with the top throwers in the world next to them and against them. which is really scary and really kind of funny. But the answer is, that's how you learn really fast. Faster than anybody else will learn how to throw boomerangs really well. You guys, welcome to the top, because that's where you're going really fast, like blazing comets. But it won't be pretty at first. You're going to be missing, the boomerangs will go in the wrong place, you'll be dropping boomerangs, you'll have to be throwing the wrong boomerang, you won't check the grass, and you'll forgot to check the grass, and the wind will change on you and come from a different direction, and suddenly you'll be throwing in the wrong direction. It's going to look pretty bad. And the answer is, get the joke, relax, enjoy the ride, because you guys are moving really fast towards perfection. But it won't be today. So you just have to really realize that, guess what? You guys are actually privileged, because what you're throwing is boomerangs that have been handed to Sam and me and whomever, and to you guys eventually, boomerangs that have came out of the competition quiver of the top throwers in the world. You're not throwing a toy. You're throwing a real sports boomerang that was used in international competition already, and maybe it's their number 2 favorite, their number 3 favorite, it's no longer their top boomerang, but it is so incredibly better boomerang than anyone has ever seen, and suddenly it's going into your hands. So you have to really feel privileged about that. Some of these boomerangs are $100, made by Manu Schütz from Switzerland, who's the world record holder, and he's got this boomerang, and you're throwing it right today. So you have to realize this is really wild. We have lots of really shitty boomerangs that you could throw, but we know the difference, and we're not going to let you throw them. If you throw really bad boomerangs, guess what? You'll do badly, and you'll think it's your fault. But we're going to take care of you. We're going to only let you throw good boomerangs, which means it'll be your fault. It'll really be your fault, because we know they're great boomerangs. So that's okay, because now that's called a given. The given is you'll be throwing great boomerangs. Okay, now how you throw it is your business. So what's going to happen here is I have a recommendation. You throw it 100 times. As a way to shake hands, get to know the boomerang, get familiar with the boomerang, get to really like the boomerang, and get to realize, what does this boomerang do, and what do I do with that boomerang? If you throw a boomerang 100 times, you've really gotten to know the boomerang. If you throw it twice, you may not know the boomerang. You see, think about that. And so don't worry about the first 50 throws. The other reason for that is, if you throw one boomerang 100 times, then you realize the wind may have changed. Because I threw the boomerang the same way, how come it did something different? The wind did something different. Did the wind pulse? Did it puff? Did it veer? Did it twist? What was the wind doing? Did the wind drop? Did the wind pick up? What was the wind doing? So this is one of the things we want to know. If you're throwing with steady wind, let's say 3 miles an hour, good looking, light wind, not such a big deal, not blowing, puffing, not gusting, not twisting, but if the wind is steady, that's a given. Now you have to ask, if you haven't touched the boomerang, that's a given. The boomerang is itself. What are you doing? So now, is your foot acting differently? Are you throwing a little bit do you have a rocking step? Does your wrist twist? Does it bend? Does it turn? What are you doing? So you have to figure out, what does it look like to have a machine-like throw? If you could throw really successfully, this is a great moment. Let's say you have a bullseye, you catch the boomerang in your chest, it's a wonderful throw. The question is, can I throw it the same way now? 2 throws in a row. What did I do the last time? So we know the direction to the throw. We know it's the wind is the same. We know we're throwing the same boomerang. Can I throw it the same way? Then you become a machine. Can I throw it the same way 10 times? What if I throw 5 times and then the 6th time I completely change my throw? Well, that's interesting. So that's called practice. That's called knowing. If you change it, that's okay. Just realize that's new information. See? So we're not trying to frustrate ourselves. We're trying to learn. Every mistake you make, this is a Rue moment here, a Rueism. Every mistake you make is a learning moment. if you pay attention. If you say, oh, damn, that didn't work, I'll do something else, then you haven't really learned. What you have to ask yourself is, what did I do? What happened that made it a mistake? How did I drop the boomerang, as an example? Catching a boomerang is really interesting. I'll give you a great moment. Have you ever seen the statue of the Heisman Trophy, the football player who was catching a boomerang? It's a trophy for the top thrower in college football, called the Heisman Trophy. He's basically got his hands, one hand is below, the other hand's above. There's 4 inches between them, and each one hand is almost touching his chest, right about his belly. And his knees are bent, and the football is coming right into his belly, like somebody just threw the football at his belly. What does that look like? That looks like a perfect catch, is what that looks like. What is a perfect catch? A perfect catch is when the boomerang is coming into your belly, when your left hand is low, your right hand is high, and there's 4 inches between the two hands, and then suddenly the boomerang lands on your left hand, and you, guess what? Put your right hand softly down on your right hand. What does that look like? It turns out your left hand is mud, and your right hand is press. It's not clap. If you ever hear the word clap on the field and somebody's catching a boomerang, they're probably dropping it. Because they're so excited they want to get a catch it, they go, oh my God, I almost caught it. And then guess what? There's so much energy on your catch that the boomerang explodes away from the catch, because the boomerang is actually trying to come into your hand, and you have to suck it into your hand with soft energy instead of clap it away from your body with violence. So if you have soft hands, you're a much better catcher. Good to know. What is catching a boomerang like? If you drop a boomerang, that's okay. Think about what happened. If you're catching it really low or really high, or it's sliding by you, really fast, okay, then you have to, and it was really difficult, and you dropped it. It's okay, it was difficult. What if it got easy? Well, that's interesting. How can I throw a boomerang in such a way that I have an easy catch? So now you have, while you're practicing, you want to ask yourself, can I make my life a little easier? What would happen if the boomerang came in and I moved around before the boomerang came? I kept dancing and dancing, and moving my feet, and kept moving my feet until I was in the perfect position to catch it. Okay? Suddenly, what does the perfect position mean? It means the boomerang is actually, if I never use my hands and put my hands out to the side, it would hit my belly button. So if you can get a boomerang to hit your belly button, you almost don't need your hands. But if it's hitting your belly button, then you just sort of at the last moment, give it a hug, and you've caught that boomerang. So the point is, what does it mean to position your body? You throw the boomerang, and what does it mean to dance around until you got a real nice, easy catch? So that's going to be another thing you'll be learning. So again, we're going to the simplest thing that Rue could tell you: throw 100 times in steady wind. The next thing I can tell you is Sam will be taking you out to throw boomerangs when it's about 3 to 5 miles an hour at most for the first few weeks. And if you really want to throw really bad and the wind is really windy, don't go. Don't even bother. Now, if you do bother, then just get over it. It's going to be miserable. You're not going to be catching. It's going to be like, oh no, oh no, oh no. It's going to be a disaster. And the answer is enjoy that, because that's reality. And realize, now I'm learning how to struggle. And guess what? I might have to actually fly after the boomerang and dive after the boomerang and land on the ground and get muddy catching this boomerang. That's a lot of fun. I might run after the boomerang and lunge after it and still miss the boomerang. Don't be frustrated. You made a great effort. You see? What is the coach doing? The coach is looking at you, and when he sees that you have lunged and thrown yourself after the boomerang and even missed it, he says, this is a good guy, good girl, I like her, because she really wants the boomerang. See? Now that's really nice. And now, and we're looking at you, we're happy. No, so you have to remember, if the coach is happy, you can be happy. What's happening is this: we're really you guys are just starting out as boomerangers, and it's going to be a little scary and frustrating and mysterious at first. How come I just can't catch everything perfectly all the time? And so the answer is, give it time. Ask yourself, what was I like a month ago? What was I like 3 months ago? If you're really improving a lot, then you have to realize that's it. By the way, the best throwers a week before the tournament make mistakes. As soon as they make a mistake, they go, thank you. Thank you for showing me what my mistake looks like, so I don't have to do it during the competition. So whenever you make a mistake, you have to stop for a second and think, what was that? If you could fix your mistakes, wow, suddenly you wouldn't have any anymore because you'd fixed 20 mistakes and then you suddenly don't have any more mistakes. That's called perfection. So fixing the mistake is what you want to do. What you don't want to do is break the boomerang or blame yourself or go on to the next throw without thinking about it. You really want to fix these things. What does it mean to fix a mistake? It means to stop and ask yourself, with a video replay loop, what just happened? I have the top throwers, and we actually, astonishingly, have to tell the top throwers exactly what I already told you about catching with like a Heisman Trophy person, the belly catch, the basket catch. We have to teach them the basket catch, and these are the top throwers in the world. And the reason we have to teach them that is because it's the best catch, and they've been using an easy catch like one hand or two hands anyway, anywhere, it doesn't matter. And sometimes it's so important you want to make a sure catch. So it doesn't matter if you catch any way you catch, left hand, right hand, underhand, trick catch, whatever. But if you want a sure catch, then you have to go back to Heisman Trophy. Heisman, and then that might actually include the idea of asking yourself, how many points of contact can I make with a catch? Like obviously, you put your left hand down, your right hand on top, and you sandwich catch. That's got 2 points of contact. But if you do that next to your belly, it might actually touch your belly while you're catching it with your two hands. That's 3 points of contact. If you're raising your knees at the same time as you're hitting your belly, and it hits a knee while it's hitting your belly, while it's hitting your two hands, that's 4 points of contact. Get it? You've got lots of catching there. So the point is that there are very simple ways to do well. Take your time and realize that as a kids team, we're looking at you, not what you're doing now at this throw, but what you're going to be doing 5 years from now. So we know that what you're doing now is going to make you spectacular 5 years from now. You just see your mistakes. By the way, what we're looking at is your desire, your commitment, your focus, your intention. Your mistakes are fine. We don't care. We're looking for your desire, your commitment, your intention. What do you want to do? You don't have to get there now. That's our job, to get you there later. Your job is to keep working. Throw 100 throws. If you throw 100 throws, I promise you the 80th throw is not the same as the first 3 throws. Something else is happening. So you have to ask yourself, if I'm changing, if I'm making progress, if I'm actually moving into another category of throwing, learning more about the wind, learning more about the boomerang, learning more about myself, then I have to realize this is good. We actually have a deadline, which is by end of April. We're sending you guys to Seattle to act like you're a team. It's going to be a learning process, so you'll make some mistakes and then we'll get better. But by August, we're going to Bordeaux, France, where you will also act like a team. Now, to get on the team, what we require, interestingly, I can tell you right now, is that you will follow instructions. They'll be nicely asking you to do things. One thing we might ask you to do is to be a spotter, which means you go to the 20-meter spot and you raise a red flag when because you're spotting, when a boomerang goes from the bullseye and goes around you. So now you know it's made the distance, it's gone 22 meters, you raise your flag. Now, if you don't feel like being a spotter, which is what you have to do a couple times during the World Cup, then don't come to France. In other words, they actually require that you become a spotter. It's not a request. It's not like a friendly thing. It's not volunteers. When you join a team, you're actually joining a team and you have to do things. You may not want to do that, and that's okay, just because there's lots of fun time to throw boomerangs by yourself. A team is a very special thing. What it is it's when you are doing things for each other. You're doing things to make everybody feel good. You just have to be able to realize that we all love you and we want you to work with us. And so it's going to be, that's just called commitment. Commitment is when you say, yes, I will work with you. So you have to wear a certain costume, which is the uniform. That's fun. You have to show up at a certain time. That's fun. Like as an example, it turns out that there is a practice for 10 minutes before the event begins in world competition. It's a 10-minute practice. There's a horn that goes, bah, and then you get to throw your first boomerang. You cannot throw a boomerang until the horn goes, bah, like this. Okay, that's the rule. So this is why you're coming, to follow rules. This is one of the rules. You can't throw a boomerang until the horn goes, dong, and then everybody starts throwing. So you know this is practice time. This is 10-minute practice. And guess what? 10 minutes later, on a clock, the horn goes, and then you have to stop. You cannot throw another boomerang. So there are actual rules to follow. This is pretty funny. Now, the next thing is the team needs you to be with the team at the practice circle, wherever the team is. If you see some of your teammates and it's about to become practice, run over to them. Don't go somewhere else. Don't go looking for a soda. Don't go looking for things in your backpack. You have to go to the bathroom long before that, etc. Run over to your team because the gong just sounded and it's time to practice for 10 minutes. We need you. See, so being there on time, doing your job, is going to be really amazing, and you'll really enjoy that. Because it's great throwing with your team. But the point is, we need your commitment and focus to actually stay with the program. And it's not that difficult. It's not a big deal. We're all having fun, but we still need you to focus. So that's all we need from you. We actually don't need your perfection as a thrower. So if you make drops or your boomerang is not that accurate, whatever, at certain moments, this could happen because the wind is tricky. One thing you may not know, you may feel terrible about running around after a boomerang that's in the wrong place because it landed way over there, and you may feel terrible. You may not have noticed that the top throwers in the world are also running over there to catch the boomerang because the wind is really tricky and really crazy, and you think it's your fault. But if you see everybody else having the same problem, it's probably not your fault. So pay attention. What your point is to realize you're throwing among other throwers. In competition, everything is relative. Let's say you do a fairly good job, but you feel pretty bad about yourself, and you just beat all the other kids in all the other teams. Now you have to realize, oh, that was good. Now, I have actually, Barnaby was talking here, made some fairly mediocre, pretty ordinary mistakes, and some pretty good scores, but not really that good, and won the event, and set a world record, or whatever. It all depends. You never can tell. The point is you do the best you can, and it's going to be crazy, and don't worry about it, because that's all learning. So follow your coaches, because they are going to be handing you certain boomerangs. The boomerangs are for competition. We're not going to try. Sometimes you can go off by yourself and try some funny boomerangs that are just fun to play with. I think it's a wonderful idea if you go off and play for a couple days by yourself, anytime you feel like it. But there might be some boomerangs that are for exact tournament events, and your job there is to figure out how can I throw this fast catch boomerang and catch it 5 times without moving around too much. That's a good question. How can I throw this Australian round boomerang, which goes 35, 40 meters, and catch it in the bullseye 5 times? That's really pretty exciting. And just to get there, it's going to be your first job under really good wind conditions. Throw, catch, throw, catch, throw, catch, without moving around too much. Curiously, everybody has to move around a little bit because the wind is kind of crazy. So that might also happen. Sometimes the boomerang scores in Australian round could be catching 5 times is 20 points, 4 points every time you catch. Throwing 30 meters is 2 points, times 5 is 10 points total. Now you've got 30 points already without doing anything. Accuracy can be 5 times in the bullseye, can be 50 more points, 5 times 10. And that ends up being 100 points, by the way, which is a world record. About 99 is the world record right now.
Could you do some throws, maybe? Show a little demonstration of throws?
Okay, you got the video.